Good evening. I call to order the December 2nd, 2013 meeting of the Goffstown Board of Selectmen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a fairly short agenda. We do have a public hearing at 7 p.m., but I'd like to start with the acceptance of the minutes, the public minutes of the November 25th, 2013 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve with correction.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second.
Excuse me, would you mind speaking up a little hard of hearing?
Sure.
You sound like you're whispering to me, but...
Sure. Phil, what do you have for corrections?
Page 3, right above F, it said Selectmen, the manager would like it made clear that the board would be laying out a new Class 5 road. What I actually said was to make sure that we know if it's a new layout or it's a modification.
All right.
It was a question, it wasn't a statement, so, because it's the applicant would be making the request.
Do you have others, Phil?
No, that was it.
Any other board members have any corrections to the minutes? No, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
The non-public minutes were in there on your last page. Didn't know if they'd be done when I was doing it, but they got done.
Where are they following the...
Yes, the last page of the minutes.
Okay, so we're now taking up the minutes of the non-public session from November 25th, 2013.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion to accept in a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. I do not have any announcements for this evening. Do any other members of the board have announcements to share with the public?
The lighting, Friday night lighting of the Christmas tree.
Oh.
December 6th, Main Street has a program going on, just to remind the citizens. And the Gold Star Mother's tree will also be lit.
I believe the common, the lighting at the common, I believe the activities start at 6 with the lighting at 8.
Let's see, Friday night under the lights, Friday, December 6th, 5 to 8. Tree lighting at 6:30 on the Goffstown
6:30.
Common.
Okay.
Hay rides, Mace Hardware from 6 to 8. The River Fire with special firelight display in the Scatterclaw conducted by home designers, builders, and remodelers. Visit with Santa in the Village at Brown Graphics and buy a personalized ornament. The Polar Express reading at the Goffstown Public Library, Hot Cocoa from the Goffstown Rotary, and the Living Nativity at the Congregational Church. Music and cast members from a Children's Nutcracker will be in attendance. That's Friday night, sorry. Friday.
Thank you very much. Lots of good activities for young and old alike, so hope to see everybody down there and enjoy each other's company celebrating the holidays. Any other announcements? Yes.
Just one quick, just to let the board know, the fire department is participating in a pilot program, and they will be offering the ability for residents to get a burning permit online. The state has set up a new program. There is a $3 fee that goes to the contractor that runs the website, and I apologize, I don't have the website in front of me to give out, but I'll ask the chief to put a link to that site on his on the department's website. But basically, a resident, anytime, 24 hours, can go online, apply for a burning permit, even if it's for the next day. They would then be able to pay for it, and then the following day or whenever day they were looking for the permit, they would get an email notifying them if there were any conditions that changed, if the permit was no longer valid. But it's a convenience program, and This Goffstown Fire Department is one of a few handful around the state that will be offering that program.
And I assume that's an option, you could still go to the fire department?
Still go to the fire department, and it's free.
And avoid the fee. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other announcements? Seeing none, thank you. Public comment, we're at 6:10. Sir, are you here for public comment?
For myself,
Okay,
can I make a comment?
you may. Sure, come on
You
forward.
all know who I am?
Well, you still have to come forward, give us your name for the record,
Okay.
and share your thoughts with us.
My name is Bruce Loudenslegger. I live at 4 Helen Circle in Goffstown with my elderly mother, handicapped, and I'm also handicapped. My father passed away recently. I've been watching you people for a while, and I've heard some comments about us from you people, about personal comments about myself and my family. I know what's going on. You know what's going on. I mean, it's not a lie. There's nothing to hide here. It's just, we've been living in this town for 30 years now, and ever since we moved in, our house has been listened to by the town of Goffstown, and now it's pretty much everywhere else. So I guess we're just tired of it. After 30 years, it's getting old. I've been shot up, microwaved. All kinds of stuff happened to us. I'm facing jail time again because of this, because I'm trying to protect myself. And it's all coming from the town. And I've been to the chief about this numerous times, and it pretty much stands now. If I walk in there and complain about something, he's going to arrest me, which makes no sense. So I stay away. And another thing's a tax bill. Is there any reason why I should have to pay taxes in this town because of what's going on with us?
I'm not following,
You're not following me?
I'm not following you exactly. I have to
Yeah.
clarify it for
Well,
me.
there's been so much going on with the town and our house, over the years.
Mhm.
And I don't think we're getting the services from the town that we should, especially the police department. I don't feel that we should have to pay taxes.
Well, there's a process where you can file for a tax abatement if you think
Tax
it's warranted.
abatement?
Yeah, there's a process that you can go through.
Really? Yeah,
Um,
that's it.
We can give you some assistance if you need.
After 30 years, that's it?
Well, it's a process that's in place. It's
Yeah,
available
that's
to
the
folks
process. Okay,
to make use of
all right.
if they feel.
Well, anyways, it's still going on. You all know what I'm talking about. I mean, you all know me. It's not a secret. There's no sense denying it. So I just want to let you know it's still going on. It was still being hurt in the house, microwaved. Yeah, there's been so much been done to us. It's unbelievable. So much. I just can't begin to tell you. It all came from this town. All right?
Well, we appreciate you coming forward and
All right.
sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, sir.
I don't see anyone else here from the public that wants to comment, so we'll move along in the agenda. Assessor Bartlett, good evening.
Good evening.
We're early, but you're here, so might as well do it, right?
All right, I'm here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I do have a couple of pages to hand out. You've seen the first page of this already when I gave you the equalization survey. I had printed the first page only. Here I have the first and second page of a 16-page report. The rest of the 16-page report is in this particular manual that I am going to be giving to you today. This is the mass appraisal report of the statistical update that I did this year. I completed it today, signed it today. I will be giving this to the Department of Revenue as well, and a copy will be upstairs for the public to look at. This is your copy to take a look at. I do ask when you're done with it, you return it to our, and we'll keep it in the assessing office. But obviously it's always there for you to review and take a look at. Sue did ask me to come today and talk a little bit about equalization, what it is, why we do it. We do it every year. Just to start out, I had given you some definitions, which I hope is in your packet, which I'm going to go over. But what is equalization? If you go to the DRA's website, it's defined as the process by which the DRA
makes adjustments to each municipality's locally assessed values to calculate the estimated 100% market value of the municipality. They do this every year, and they do it for every municipality. They are required by statute to report to the Secretary of State the value of every single town every year. And the reason they do this is for a number of different purposes. It's for the state education tax rate. It's used for that. It's used for the county rate, because when you're comparing towns within the same county, they have to be equalized. They have to be at the same value so that you're not comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing the same values when you set the county tax rates. It's also used for cooperative schools when they do their rates. Within the community itself, we use the equalization numbers as well. We use what is called the median ratio, or the level of assessment. When I do abatements every year, I do it based on market value as of April of that year, adjusted by the level of assessment. For an example, if I've got a property that I determine is worth $200,000 and I'm at a ratio of 90%, meaning my assessments are 10% lower than actual market value, I need to adjust it for that for abatement purposes. So I use that level of assessment every year as well. Just very quickly going over some of the definitions I have here. The first one I have, is the DRA reporting requirement, which is required every year. But I have in my definitions mass appraisal. Now that's what I do. I'm a mass appraiser. I'm also a licensed or certified appraiser. But what I do for the town is mass appraisal. I use the town software and sales in the town to come up with values on a regular basis for assessment purposes. And if you look at the definition, it says, as of a given date, which is April 1st of every year, using standard methodology, and typically that's our CAMA system, computer-assisted mass appraisal system that we use. It's also based on this manual, some of the guidelines that I have in this manual. Employing common data, typically that's sales. It's qualified sales, sales of properties that have sold, usually within a year time frame. Sometimes I'll go further outside for different types of properties, but usually we're looking at a year of data. And they're qualified sales. They're not just every single sale that occurs. And then it says allowing for statistical testing. The basic equalization process is statistical testing. It takes the sales and it compares them to assessment and applies statistics to it to determine if the values we've put there for assessment purposes are appropriate. The assessment to sales ratio study is essentially what the equalization process is. It's an assessment to sales ratio study that's done, again, using the qualified sales. When you look at what a qualified sale is, you're looking for sales that are typical, what a typical buyer and a typical seller are going to come to an agreement on a price. Now, if you look at this list I had given you, on the second page, here we have some examples of sales that would not be considered qualified and not used in a sales ratio study or the equalization survey. One of the most common, and you see here it has the description of why it's excluded and then the number of sales. We had 109 sales that were excluded from the survey this year. 43 of them were financial entity as grantor grantee. These are bank sales. These are sales after a foreclosure where the financial institution puts them on the market and is basically trying to get rid of their assets. These are assets that they do not want, and they need to get rid of them on a fairly quickly. These type of sales are not used. Another type of sale that's not used would be a short sale. These are sales where the mortgage company and the owner come to an agreement to sell the property for less than what the property is mortgaged for. These are usually they're code number 99, unclassified exclusion. So we had 11 short sales. And then there's other types of sales there. So these sales are taken out. We only look at the qualified sales for the study.
The next definition I have there is assessment to sales ratio. Now, this is the basic piece of data that we established for this study. It's basically taking the assessed value of the property divided by the selling price. And I have an example here. If I have a property that's assessed at $200,000 and it's sold for $210,000, it's a very simple mathematical division. 200,000 divided by 210,000 is 0.95. That would be the assessment ratio in that particular sale. Once you've established all of the assessment to sales ratios in all the qualified sales, then you start to look at all the statistical measures. The first three are the indications of central tendency. First is the median, which is the middle number. And again, I just gave you an example. If you look on the third page of the handout I had given to Sue before, and that particular example I have, which is the first box right here, I've shown you 7 hypothetical sales. These are not actual sales. I just created this data just for an example. But if you look at those, I've arranged those particular sales in order of assessment to sales ratio in descending order. For example, the first one, I have that it sold for $40,000 and it's assessed at $50,000. The assessment to sales ratio on that is 1.25, 50,000 divided by 40,000. I've then arranged these in decreasing order, and the median sale is the middle one. So in this case, there's 7 samples. The middle one is the 4th. So in this particular example, the median is 0.98. The mean is the simple average. You just take the average of the 7 assessment to sales ratio. And then the weighted mean is you take the total of the assessments divided by the total of the sales prices. So again, looking back at this example, if you add up all the assessments, that's $2.3 million approximately, and you add up the sales prices, that's about $2.493 million. Okay? So the assessment to sales ratio there is just the sum of the assessments divided by the sum of the sales prices. The price-related differential, and again, you're going to see this on the 2 pages that I gave you, is one of the measures we used. This one's a little harder to understand. It's basically what it is. It's a simple calculation again. It's the mean divided by the weighted mean. This is very helpful in determining the equity of a group of sales based on value. For example, if you have a price-related differential that is greater than 1, it's an indication that your lower-valued properties are being overassessed in comparison to your higher-valued properties. The reverse is true as well. If you're less than 1, it means that your high end is lower than your is being assessed at a higher level than your low-end properties. Typically, it's very difficult, especially in a community that has manufactured homes, it's very difficult to have a price-related differential less than 1. The typical state is a slight overassessment of your lower value properties. It's mostly because of the relationship between how a ratio is determined. A $1,000 difference on a small selling price makes a much greater percentage difference than on a much higher valued property. Okay? So we typically, since we have mobile homes in this town, since we have manufactured homes in this town, we do see a situation where typically our PRD is somewhere a little above 1. We're usually around 1.01, 1.02, which is acceptable. The recommended range for your PRD is somewhere between 0.98 and 1.03. This year we're at 1.01, which is what we usually expect. Now, I did on my example, I exaggerated the numbers just to show you what this has, what effect it has. This low price sale or assessment here, I had it having a greater ratio than 1. And you can see on the PRD in this particular example is 1.06. This is because we have a low-valued property has a very high ratio. And what this does is it creates a situation where the PRD is greater than 1. The final definition I have here is the coefficient of dispersion. I usually call this the quality rating. This is again, it's similar to standard deviation, where it's basically measuring the relative deviation within a group of properties or a group of ratios. For a coefficient of dispersion, for a town like Goffstown, we usually expect a COD of less than 10%. The state guidelines say it can be less than 20%. We are a relatively homogeneous community. Some of your smaller communities up north, you would expect a higher coefficient of dispersion. I expect to be somewhere around 10% or less. We have had a couple of years we've been slightly more than 10%, but we usually are under 10%. That's where we try to stay. Just looking at the numbers that I have for preliminary numbers right now, these have not been finalized yet. The state has not gone through this. They do need to finalize this. If you see on the report, it does say not for publication. It is in my report. This particular report, or this ratio study is in my manual. I will replace it with the final report when I have it. But our median ratio, which I consider to be our level of assessment, that's what I use every year for abatement purposes, is the median. It's 99.3%, or 0.993. So we're slightly under-assessed, very slightly. Our mean assessment, which again is the average, is at 1, and our weighted mean is at 0.991. Price-related differentials comes out at 1.01, and then our coefficient of dispersion is 6.1%. All of these numbers are well within the requirements of the Department of Revenue Administration. These are the numbers that you signed a couple weeks ago, and it's going forward with. They will review this. They will go over it. They'll probably make some minor adjustments. I expect the final numbers to be very similar to this. They may throw out one sale or include one that I thought they shouldn't, but I don't expect the numbers to change very much. This is pretty much what we're going to see going forward. Now, again, this manual that I'm going to be giving you today, this describes the process I went through to come up with the new values. The new values are out. We are starting to see some reaction to the new values. Overall, the values did not change very much. There are a couple of spot properties that there were some large increases, but for the majority of properties, most changed by plus or minus 5%. Some went down a little bit, some stayed the same, some went up a little bit. What is happening because of the tax rate going up by around 7%, if you have a 5% increase in your value, plus a 7% increase in the tax rate, that's a pretty significant increase in your taxes. And I am getting some reaction to that. That's fine. That's what I deal with, and we will continue to deal with that. I do expect a little larger than normal a number of abatements this year. Because, again, people tend to file abatements based on taxes, not on value. If their value is out of sight but their taxes are low, you don't get the reaction. You get more of the reaction from my taxes went up substantially. So I have been expecting a higher percentage of abatements this year. So far, I only have 5, which has surprised me. Typically, I get about a third of my abatements by the due date of the tax bill. I think we'll get more than 15, but you never know until we actually get them. So that's all I had to say to start with. So if there's any questions, anything that I can help you understand better. I mean, I deal with this every day. So, there's certain things that I understand extremely well, and I may gloss over very quickly. So I apologize for that. That's why, any questions, please.
Questions for Scott? Yes.
Well, just a comment, and perhaps it is a question, I guess for purpose of explanation. Currently, we're on a 4-year reval cycle. Is it 4-year?
By law, we are required to do at least 5 years. The law says 5 years or more oftener, if that's even a word. And we're doing 2 in every 5-year cycle is what we are currently on. I have done, since I've been here, we did one in 2008, we did 2011, we did this year 2013. I've always recommended to the board to do more than 5 years, because we just did a 2-year update, and we have values that are changing by as much as 5%, which is not huge, but it does have an impact when you have an increase in the tax rate as well. If we had waited 5 years, we would have 10 to 15% value changes, and that's a huge impact.
Right.
So we've done this year. I would recommend that we do another one in either 15 or 16, and then we will be required by law to do the 5-year in 2018.
And the 5-year includes the list and measure results.
Well, the list and measure we're doing a little differently. We're doing a cyclical. We're right in the middle of a 5-year contract right now. We just finished the 2nd year of that. The law does not require that you do everything at once. What it requires is that you keep everything up to date. And by doing a cyclical on a regular basis, we're going out, inspecting the properties, we're making sure our physical data is being kept up to date. And then I do periodic updates in between using the data that has been entered into the computers. What this avoids is the huge expense that you would have by doing complete revaluation in 1 year. It costs about $500,000 to do a full-blown revaluation. If we continue this cycle, the town of Goffstown probably will never have to do a full-blown revaluation. We'll just keep everything up to date. We'll continually do these minor updates. That way your values are staying relatively stable. You're not having these huge changes from cycle to cycle.
Yes.
If I can, just for the board's information and people that are on TV, what Scott is referring to is prior to this system that we're on now, it used to be these revals used to be 10 years or so, but boards of selectmen, not only all over, because of this drastic change, would always try to put off the revals. So you could go 10, 15, some towns were even 20 years, and some of them were even being threatened by the state, being forced into a reval. And what happens is, I believe it's in the coefficient of dispersion, you get such a variation on both sides, and as that coefficient of dispersion changes, you get a difference of the property types within the town, whether, let's say, single-family homes, multifamily homes, duplexes, different variations. Some of them are undervalued, some of them are overvalued because the markets change. And it's very unfair because some people are being overtaxed, some people are being undertaxed. And by doing it in this process, we keep that coefficient of dispersion, as Scott mentioned, closer to that one area. So it's, I mean, I hate to refer to property taxes as being fair, because none of us like taxes, but that's the way the state operates. But by trying to keep them closer together so you're at the proper assessment, then it's fairer to everybody. And that's why we do this. And we don't have, as you mentioned, we don't have these drastic changes. And I thought also when you mentioned about abatements, what you're actually referring to are requests for abatements. If the form is actually a request, then nothing's been granted at this point. You're just going to be going through that process and assessing, evaluating.
Anytime I use the term abatement, I am referring to a request for an abatement. And if one is granted, then it's either a refund or a reduction of the taxes owed.
Correct. Thank you.
Do we have other questions for Scott? Anything, Mark?
Oh, good.
All set? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will leave this with you.
You want these tested?
I don't need those back.
question. Is that available electronically?
It will be. I scanned it all today. I have not actually put it on the website yet, but I will be doing that. So we'll be there. Again, I will have a copy in the office at all times, and one goes to the Department of Revenue. This is the third report I have done since I've been here. The one in the office does not get used very often. I think I pull it out more often than taxpayers come in and ask to look at it. I don't know about the one online. I do have the two previous ones I had done are online. How often they've been looked at, I don't know. I've only talked to one individual I know was reviewing it online. Other than that, I haven't heard. I suppose I could ask Neil if it is being looked at a lot. But
And I was wondering more for us if we could at some point receive it electronically, just so that we at our leisure.
well, as I said, it will be online.
Perfect.
It's in PDF form right now, and I'll try to get it on probably tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda is the town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your weekly meeting schedule is in your packet. There are budget committee meetings on December 4th and December 5th. I assume Selectman Lemay has that covered.
Collis has my
Make sure we're clear on,
Collis has my 4th,
Okay.
which is Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday. The 5th I cannot do.
And they do the school on that day.
Yes, they do.
And they're not making any votes yet, right?
No.
They're still in presentation mode?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I was the alternate representative, so we need to take action to appoint another alternate. Do I understand that right?
For Thursday night?
For Thursday night.
Thursday night. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm available
Okay.
Thursday night.
So Nick will cover me that for the 5th.
Yeah, we need a motion.
I'll make
Yes.
a motion to authorize Nick as alternate for Budget Committee.
And you have a second.
Thank you, Nick.
from
You're
Al.
welcome.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks, guys.
Did we already take the vote on the chairman filling in?
Oh, I think I'm already.
Thought we did.
Yeah,
that
we did.
last-
Yeah.
We did
yeah,
that last
yeah.
meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I
so
thought it was for
Two-
the
two
11th,
meetings.
wasn't it?
Well, then, you know what, I'll make a motion just to reaffirm
Second
Okay.
that the chairman is
for the 4th.
and
For the fourth.
right, for
I'm
the
not-
fill-in for the 4th.
I'm not sure. Did you get Peter's email? He will not be here this entire week. Peter Georgianis will not be here.
I did not get that.
Yeah, he sent it. So, Vice Chair,
Guy?
Guy Karen will
be
be-
running the meeting.
yes,
For both Wednesday and Thursday?
yes.
Okay. All righty, so we had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. Consensus folder tonight is thank you letter for the $500 donation to GTV revolving fund and a road tracking form to accept the slope and drainage easement for map 11 lot 2-3.
Motion to accept the consensus folder.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Also tonight you have the bid awards of Parks and Recreation basketball hoop system and mower, and that's at tab 5C in your packet. There were 3 bidders for the basketball hoop system. And Parks and Rec commissioners recommend Martin Sales for the price of $5,830.60.
And they are the low bidder.
Yes, they are.
Make a motion to accept that bid.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And there were 4 bidders for the commercial zero-turn mower. That's also, there's a memo on that also in that tab. Parks and Rec commissioners recommend Skag Turf Tiger mower from Stills Power Equipment in Manchester for the price of $11,499, which includes a $250 parts coupon.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
I'll second that also.
Okay, that is not the apparent low bidder. I'm looking at
It's
this.
a low bidder for that piece of equipment, I believe. And the commissioners give their reasoning why they wanted that
there any questions of the board? Is the recommendation to accept that bid?
I was there for that discussion, and a lot of it revolved around the experience with the current mowers that they have. The Turf Tiger is a direct drive, if I'm correct, versus a belt drive, so there's less maintenance. So I think after they compared everything, maintenance, breakdown time, they looked at the Turf Tiger, and that is the low bid between the two Turf Tigers.
Reduced maintenance offsets the difference.
That's just one comment for viewers. They currently have one of each. Is that correct?
Correct.
So they are making this decision based on the experience of the two
Correct.
current mowers that you have.
And then the other outlier was the $13,000 diesel, which was much higher.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question. Is this coming out of this year's budget, Rick, or is your revolving fund, or
One of them, yes.
one is coming out of what,
General fund
and the other?
is probably going to come out of the other one.
Okay. Which is which?
Mower's general fund.
Mower is the general fund?
We won't have enough to do. Remember when I first came in, we said we're doing it depending upon what the values came back at.
Right.
And there's no way we can do both, but we can definitely do one. And the mower is a higher need
Okay.
at the moment. We could do half of the basketball hoop system.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Which one do you use in December and January?
Neither.
Boy, Phil. I have a question.
Yes, Nick.
If we just voted to recommend the award,
Yeah.
are we bound now to make that purchase, since we went out to bid for the hoop system, and we just formally accepted that?
You didn't say which year.
Okay.
And there should be a little clause on the bottom of that we reserved.
On the bottom of the bid, it does have that statement, the town reserve. I understand what you're saying, because on the bottom of the bid, it does have that statement down there.
In the best interest of the town. Bless you.
Thank you.
The town of Goffstown reserves the right to accept or reject any and all bids, as well as waive any informalities in the best interest of the town. So there's that statement. I don't know what that means with what you're doing here.
Right. Well, they just awarded the bids, and now Selectman Capasano is questioning, now that he knows the
Bound to
funding,
purchase
Purchase it right now.
whether or not
We're bound to purchase.
This money
Right.
being bought right now is we have to.
It'll be,
you can discuss, I guess, if you were going to not purchase something this year, you would reconsider whichever motion you wanted to reconsider. I guess I don't know which one's of interest here.
I guess my question is, will both of these eventually be purchased? In other words, will
Yes.
we be getting the backboards in 2004? Okay.
Yes.
So this bid, as long as there's a 90-day, if they hold their prices,
Yes.
okay, that's my question.
Right, and I guess just as a follow-up, was there anything in the RFP that specified what year they would be purchased?
No, it did not. No,
Did it specify how long the bid was good till?
90 days.
90 days.
So
So they
it
have
could be
time.
purchased in either year.
But what was the intent of the commissioners? What year to purchase each?
Well, it was as I.
Well,
when I-
general fund would have to be this year.
Yes, and what we did is we were looking at some year-end final numbers, and they asked me to get these two bids out there so that you have option A and option B, and that's the main intent for it. And it would be general fund request. And looking at it, definitely the mower would be a 2013 general fund request right at this moment. And we're not going to have enough to do both of them at the full amount. There's no way.
Whatever is going to be purchased this year out of the general fund, if you don't actually pay for it and receive it in 2013, you need to add it to the selectmen's list of year-end encumbrances that they'll be acting on December 16.
Okay. I understand. Thank you. Thanks for getting my wheels turning.
Right, because you may purchase it right now, but it may not come in until January or February, and then they won't bill you until after that, so you want to encumber those.
Right, 'cause
Right,
we only
right.
leave the 2013 books open like 3 weeks into January for any December bills.
Right. Okay.
I was a little bitch.
Get it bought.
Get the invoice.
Get the invoice.
Okay.
Give me the machine.
No, we can't pay unless you receive them. Nice
Thank
try.
you.
Thank you.
Really for bus.
Okay, we all set with that?
Yes, we are, thank you. Bid award for the Public Works surplus vehicles. There were 5 bidders for the 2006 Crown Vic, ranging from $428 to $888. The Public Works Director recommends awarding the sale of the 2006 Crown Vic to the high bidder, William Doucette, for $888.
So move.
Second. Oops, sorry.
Who got the second on that?
Pick one.
Mark, okay.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And there was one bidder for the 2000 Volvo truck for $2,222, and one bidder for the 1999 Sterling for $2,222. The Public Works Director recommends rejecting these bids in the best interest of the town, as the town can sell these vehicles to a salvage yard, White and Bradstreet, Inc., and they're in Maine, but they will pick up the vehicles. And they'll give us $6,000 for the Sterling and $4,000 for the Volvo.
10,000 is proposed to 4,500.
Yep.
Right, I have a question on that. Could we put these out to bid to different salvage yards? I mean, I'm just putting it out as a question. Do we just pick one out of the hat and say, okay?
No, they called several, I think.
Oh, that's one question. How many do we actually ask if they want to bid on money even? As a salvage yard.
Well,
might bid.
any salvage yard could have bid on the
Okay,
bid that
all
we
right,
put out
all
there,
right.
but they don't typically look for bids, so the Public Works Director had the mechanic call around to different salvage yards, and this is the best price
That's what I was
he got.
asking. Then you're shopping with these. Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid
Recommendation.
recommendation.
I'll second that. Well, for 6,000 and 4,000.
6,000, 4,000. Yep. For White and Bradstreet.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
So that was to accept the recommendation.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the recommendation was to reject the bids and
So,
accept the
Accept the Bradstreet.
The 6 and
White
4.
Bradstreet.
estimate of 6 and 5. Yeah, got
I
it.
should have bid on those.
You
slipping.
got a nice
You're
Crown
slipping.
Vic for $1,000.
Something I need.
Okay, as we look down the agenda, we have a public hearing at 7, so we've got 15 minutes before the public hearing. We've got Chief Sullivan scheduled at 7:15. He's not here yet. So I guess we'll move down to Selectmen's discussion and take up those agenda items to fill the time between now and 7, at least partially. Committee reports. Board of Selectmen met with the county commissioners on Wednesday. Thank you.
Yep. Rainy Wednesday.
It was a rainy Wednesday. It was a very cordial meeting. It was good exchange of information and a good conversation. Counties gave us their priorities. And in a nutshell, they're interested in, they've got a large amount of vacant space in the Bouchard building, somewhere around 27,000 square feet, I believe, or my notes say. However, they're interested in leasing to municipal entities, which obviously wouldn't generate any revenue for the town. So that doesn't sound very promising as far as that goes. They also talked about barn and cold storage. They talked about 7,300 square feet available in the cow barn or building 25 that has been gutted and ready to go. Talked about the kennel, the wooden kennel, and the brick piggery. Again, no plans for those. Those are gutted though and ready to go. I'm not sure. I think their intent is, as well, is to look for municipal entities to go into there.
But they did mention if there were any lawyers looking to rent in that building in front of where we were meeting, that building's been gutted, and
Yeah.
and they thought maybe that would be attractive to be so close to the courthouse.
It's been gutted, but whoever gets it's going to have to put it together.
Yeah, they made it pretty clear that they wanted to keep the agricultural fields and the timberland on the north side, or the north side of Mast Road. In agricultural use and timber use, they think that that's a kind of a signature of Goffstown, and they like that, and they want to keep it that way. They're also big supporters of recreational uses, the rail trail, what happens down along the river. They talked about the old softball field that's down back in the floodplain, and maybe putting that to use. So recreational uses are high on their priority. Let's see. Yeah, they talked about trail development, participating, helping out, assisting with trail development and promoting those types of uses. They did identify one parcel that they'd be interested in looking at a long-term lease, and that is the parcel. It's kind of a triangular-shaped piece. It's on Henry Bridge Road. As you take the lights at Henry Bridge and you begin to take the
Right in
left-hand
the
turn
curve.
down the hill, it's
Right
on
in
the
the
right
curve.
there. It's a kind of triangular piece that sits alongside of the rail trail there. That's about the only parcel they seem to be interested in entertaining long-term leases to generate, revenues. They also noted that there's currently no Goffstown rep on the county delegation. I think we ought to address that. There certainly ought to be a Goffstown rep on that delegation. Let's see if that covers all my notes. Do you have something else you want to add?
I thought about bringing it up when we had that conversation, but I figured that kind of bit my tongue on it and did not, thought that it might be appropriate for us to have the conversation at one point before approaching them. But the thing that puzzled me in a bit, they talk about having the space that's for lease, and they want to lease it to government entities so that they don't have to pay tax. Well, I don't understand, unless it's got something to do with the structure of their formation, their administration, or something, but it would seem to me that all you have to do is have a triple net lease. Triple net lease means that the person that's leasing the property pays the taxes. The taxes go up, they're responsible for the taxes, and therefore the taxes wouldn't have to be run through the county's books. But I didn't want to bring it up because we were there for a different purpose. And I just thought that it would be more appropriate for us to have that kind of a discussion, and then perhaps Sue could get, if we wanted her to entertain that, to the county administrator. Maybe they've looked at it, maybe there's a reason, but I didn't want to go there at that meeting.
The county administrator, when he was speaking, was talking about non-governmental uses. So, but there was one commission that mentioned specifically governmental uses. So I think if we can find a way that the taxes could be passed on to the rentor, I'm sure they would consider
It's done all the time in commercial leases.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You rent a commercial property, that's what they have. The taxes, you're responsible, the leaser, you're responsible for the tax. If there's an increase in the taxes, it's passed right on to you.
And I think they mentioned that to create a win-win, they realized it would have to be a non-municipal use of their buildings. But their focus was,
Right,
you're
exactly.
correct, the chairman
Existing
said,
spaces.
is to develop their existing buildings and lease them out, or have the tenant renovate them, whatever. But to find a way
Right.
to get the existing buildings rented out.
Well, I think we need to have some discussion, perhaps with economic development, and a couple of things that we did touch base on, maybe we might be able to list a few things on our website for them, which is more or less of an olive branch to them. So,
And I think we have an opportunity in the next few years as we go forward with a master plan for the town to focus on that with them. They can partner with us on developing a master plan for their land. So there's a vision there that can be passed on to whoever's sitting in the seats at the time.
I also found it interesting that comment that was made that they never accepted the charrette, the design charrette. Either the commissioners or the delegation, nobody ever
They
accepted that. So
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Well said.
yeah.
Use it as a guide more than anything else.
Well, Sue, will you approach the county administrator? and
I
ask
will.
About, creating a lease form of lease where, the taxes can be passed through to the leaseor.
I will ask them and see if there's any restriction in their statutes
Yeah,
regarding that.
because that would be more beneficial, especially if we're going to add that on our website, economic development.
Yep, that'd be important information to have. And Sue, what's the process for appointing a rep to serve on the county delegation? We should fill that. What is the process for that? Do you know?
They elect their own reps to the delegation.
We do.
I remember one year Pam Manny was a rep to the delegation when she was a state
So-
rep.
Do people express an interest to them? I mean, how do they know
Yeah, I think they take nominations
from who?
from their whole
Okay.
Not
reps
us.
in
Okay.
the
Not us.
county.
Okay.
Not us, we're not involved with
Okay.
that.
So somebody would approach them with a nomination, or one or more
Or
entities?
volunteer, yeah, someone may volunteer or get someone else to nominate them, and then they vote on their reps.
Okay.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear there was not a Goffstown
Yeah.
rep on there this year. Because it's, how many, 200 and, the delegation consists of how many?
I don't know. Yeah, it was a big number. I was
200.
surprised.
And the executive board is 22.
Even that's big, yeah.
283, I think, was the number. I thought I
100
heard.
something.
Pretty good
Talk
number.
about wheels of government.
Yeah.
That's just the county.
Yeah.
Slowly return.
Anybody else have any comments on that meeting with the county commissioners? That's the only committee report on the agenda. Are there other committees in that? No, I don't believe so. For the holiday, I don't think there were.
I had a week off almost.
Yeah. Let's see, we got 5 minutes of 7. Public hearing at 7. Why don't we take just a brief 5-minute recess, and we'll come back and open up the public hearing at 7 o'clock. So, Darrell, we're going to just take a 5-minute recess, and we'll be back at 7 o'clock for the public hearing. Good evening. This is the December 2nd, 2013 meeting of the Goffstown Board of Selectmen. We've just returned from a brief recess. It is approximately 7:04. We now have on our agenda a public hearing. I'd like to read the hearing announcement. In accordance with RSA 41:14-A, the Board of Selectmen will hold public hearings on November 18th, 2013, and December 2nd, 2013, at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, Room 106, 16 Main Street, Goffstown, to receive public input pertinent to accepting executory interest in a conservation easement for a parcel located on the southerly side of Snook Road, identified as Tax Map 7, Lot 90-1. The public hearing is now open, and is there someone who would like to come forward and speak on behalf of the executory interest in this easement? Yes.
David Neiman, I'm representing the Conservation Commission.
Good evening, David.
I'm not sure what you want me to do here.
Just briefly, like you did at the last one, just briefly what it's all about.
Okay.
A little bit of history. You don't have to go into great detail, but enough so that folks
Right.
watching on GTV get a feel for what we're discussing.
Okay, understood. This is a conservation easement which is being donated by the landowners, the Mahoney family and the Fullerton family. They're donating the ownership of the easement to the Piscataquag Land Conservancy. And essentially what that means by donating conservation easement is that they are extinguishing the development rights on their property to be held by a land trust. So the land will be kept in its undeveloped and natural state. They'll still be able to use it the same way that they would use it now, whether that be for agriculture or forestry or for harvesting. Although they're donating the easement to the PLC, the Piscataquag Land Conservancy, there are costs associated whenever a conservation easement is done for legal reviews and surveys of the property and title searches and things like that. The Conservation Commission's Land Use Change Tax Conservation Fund is a way that we can encourage this sort of activity by being able to pay for those expenses, but not actually pay for purchasing of the easement itself. That the value of the easement itself is a donation by the landowners. There's a lot of value that the town receives from this. It helps protect one of our more interesting natural areas in the town, an area that actually has drainage and runoff to the recharge area for our town water supply. It's on either end of this property. There are two of the town's protected prime wetlands that were identified as being among the most ecologically important to the town. There's also a number of vernal pools on this property, which are recognized by the state and national level as being very important to maintaining ecosystem quality. It's a very beautiful area, very beautiful wetlands. There's also a diminishing habitat of meadow and grassland on the property, a wide variety of habitat types, enriched high-quality wildlife habitat that helps supports a lot of recreational activities in the town, such as hunting, hiking, just general nature enjoyment in general that many of our citizens appreciate. So that, in a nutshell, is what it's all about. Why we're here before the Board of Selectmen is to accept, although this easement is being donated to the PLC will assume all the stewardship responsibility forever. This is for perpetuity. In other words, they will inspect the site every year to make sure that the terms of the easement are being honored. But what the town gets is an executory interest in that easement, which means that should the land trust fail to perform their duty in any way, the town, all the rights of the easement simply are transferred to the town of Goffstown. It's kind of a nice arrangement because we're not assuming any responsibility for this as long as the PLC is doing their job, which we're pretty sure they always will. We're not assuming any expenses going forward for the town because again, this will be covered by the PLC. We're not changing or losing any tax revenue in this transaction because the land will continue to be taxed at the same rate which it currently is, the land being under current use status. If there are any further questions, I think that pretty well summarizes it.
Thank you. Questions from board members for David? Relative to the easement, the executory interest, what that means?
And the board can vote on this 7 to 14 days after this public hearing. We are awaiting Attorney Drescher's legal review of the easement language. I don't think there will be any issue. It's very similar to the last one we had done. I have not received it. I asked for it by 11:20. Just sent him out a reminder that I haven't received it yet, and the board is taking a vote next Monday, so we need it for your packets next Monday.
All right. Yes.
I have a question. if there's any substantial changes. And I don't know, the question is
If he
this
recommends-
this is a public hearing.
Mhm.
So if we had substantial changes that were in that, it would seem to me that the appropriate time would be to make them publicly here.
Right.
Assuming there's no substantive changes.
All he's reviewing is his executory interest clause,
I
which is the
understand.
same as previous ones, so I don't see a big issue.
Yeah, this isn't the first time we've done this either.
Right.
so
No.
I don't expect there to be any, but
And the subject of the public hearing was whether to accept or not the actual language. We haven't presented the actual language at a public hearing.
Okay, as long as,
Yeah.
that's what I meant, there's nothing substantive.
No,
Canned version shouldn't change much.
right.
any other questions from board members? Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak at this public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:11 PM, December 2nd, 2013. Thank you, David.
If we could thank David for
Thank you.
all of that. I
Thank
know
you.
there's a lot of hard work that goes into getting these easements.
It's my pleasure.
Your typical good job. Thank you, David. All right. Chief, we had you on at 7:15. We're a little early. If you're ready to roll, we are. Chief?
Are you expecting anyone?
Are you expecting others, Chief? Would you like us to hold off, or if you're comfortable going?
I think we can move right along, and if they come, I don't see us being done before 7:15, maybe 7:16, but not 15.
Okay.
Highway safety met, I have the notes here somewhere, back on the 11th of September. I guess because of budget hearings, et cetera, that we've had a little delay. But we met on 4 different issues. The first was the request concerning a dangerous intersection sign at West Union Street. Mr. James Finn attended the committee meeting and requested a dangerous intersection sign. His concerns were twofold, both as vehicles entering onto Main Street from West Union, and secondly for pedestrian utilizing the crosswalks on Main Street crossing from West Union to East Union. After discussion by the committee, as well as reviewing reports, we felt that it'd be best to have one of the neon green signs, for lack of a better color description, I guess, pedestrian crossing as you come up the hill. We also discussed a pedestrian crossing sign painted on the roadway. After speaking with Carl this morning, that's no longer acceptable warning device, so they're looking into new warning devices under their rules and regulations, and he's going to come forward with something on that, as far as something, if we can put it in the roadway or another type of...
Some form of pavement markings?
Some type of pavement markings, yes. So that would be our request. That warning sign doesn't require an ordinance, just the authorization to post it. The second request was for a stop sign at the intersection of Shore Drive and Moose Club Park Drive. The committee reviewed a letter from Karen Fearon requesting a stop sign at the intersection of Shore Drive and Moose Club Park Drive. After reviewing the officers' reports, knowledge of the area, and the fact that it's a dead-end road traveled primarily by residents, the committee voted not to recommend the request for the stop sign on Shore Drive at the intersection of Moose Club Park.
I'm sorry, on the first one, were there any questions from the board?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I forgot to ask, because my expectation is we could take these all at once in one motion.
Yeah.
Let's discuss them one at a time as they bring up. So relative to the pedestrian crossing, were there any questions for
There's
the
nothing we
chief
can do
on
about
that?
that yet, because he hasn't...
Right, Still some additional information coming.
Well, I believe we could post that warning sign currently in the upright position, maybe
Even though it's
not the road marking, but again, that's a sharp, steep turn with other vehicles turning and entering. It's something that I think we need to address, especially with the crosswalk. The crossing guards are even having issues with cars coming up, and they're there before they realize there are people in the roadway, so.
And when Carl said that the painted crosswalk doesn't meet standards, are you talking about the manual on uniform traffic
Right.
control?
Yes,
TCD.
it's the white little man crossing the road with crossing ahead. That no longer fits their standard, so.
Yes, that's not a Goffstown standard, that's not
Right,
the
that's
manual on uniform
correct.
traffic control devices.
Right.
ASHTO, yeah.
So.
Okay, any questions on?
I was going to make a motion to approve the placement of a fluorescent green sign at the pedestrian crossing, as well as an approved MUTCD pavement marker.
Motion, second that motion?
I'll second it, and I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
So, what we're voting on, this motion is not a recommendation of the Highway Safety Committee, then? Am I correct?
It is.
It is to a degree.
It's a deviation, I mean,
We wanted to come forward with the proper description. Carl's still doing research. I believe Megan's gone out.
Each one we have to sign
So-
up for temporary.
So, again, we can get the sign up and the road pavement as long as it fits within those guidelines.
right, I understand, but what the motion is not exactly the same, so we are not technically accepting the Highway Safety Committee's recommendation, or are we?
Want to clarify the motion? Yeah. What we're
Right. The recommendation from the Highway Safety Committee was to paint a pedestrian crossing marker by Putnam's Restaurant and then add a fluorescent green sign.
Right.
My motion was to approve the green sign and whatever MUTCD approved pavement marker.
In lieu of?
In lieu of.
The pedestrian crossing.
The
All right,
pedestrian
so
crossing, the
basically,
words.
it's the Highway Safety recommendation?
Correct.
And because of the fact that that's no longer an approved?
Accepted, correct.
Okay, just,
So to
Right.
approve the placement of the
okay.
sign, as well as the
Recommendation to be followed.
proper pavement.
Proper
markings.
pavement
All
marker.
right, how about if can I amend my motion?
Sure.
My motion will be to accept the recommendation of the Highway Safety Committee with an approved MUTCD pavement marker in lieu of the pedestrian crossing marker.
And I second that.
Second that. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Now, the next one.
There's a stop sign.
Stop sign at Shore Drive and Moose Club Park. The recommendation was not to recommend
Correct.
request for a stop sign at Shore Drive and Moose Club Park Road. The motion?
I'll make a motion to follow that
Second that one.
recommendation.
Okay, the motion is second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next one, Chief?
Third request we had before the committee, which I believe Ms. Levinson is here for tonight, was a request for a speed limit sign and blind driveway sign on Blackbrook Road and East Dunbarton Road. Committee heard from Janet regarding her concerns for lack of speed limit signs, as well as the need for blind driveway signs in the area between 488 and 496 East Dunbarton Road. After hearing the comments from the review of their investigating officer's reports, the committee voted for the placement of 2 blind driveway signs covering the 2 addresses. The committee also voted to post 4 voted to recommend 4 speed limit signs, 3 35-mile-an-hour signs on East Dunbarton Road, 1 at the intersection of Blackbrook Road, 1 at the Dunbarton line, and the 1 at the midpoint between the Dunbarton line and Blackbrook. The 4th sign was for a 30-mile-an-hour sign at the Manchester line heading north. And that was a recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Thank you.
You are Janet Levinson.
I am Janet
Okay.
Levinson.
I can need that
of
for the record.
488 East Dunbarton Road.
Okay, thank
My
you.
husband and I also own the property at 496, so that's why it's of interest to us. It's a rental property. It's a duplex.
Okay.
After review of the minutes from the 9/11 meeting, I just had a couple of comments that I did email to Chief Sullivan. And my main concern was that my understanding from the meeting was that there was approval for my part of the meeting of a sign entering Goffstown from Dunbarton, because there's no sign posted except for 2 miles up in Dunbarton, and another one come from Manchester onto East Dunbarton Road into Goffstown. So that would be 2 signs, and then midpoint there needs to be 1 each direction, not just 1, so that's actually 4 signs right there. And then it was the director of planning, I don't remember his name.
Brian Rose.
Yes, he had mentioned that actually from the Manchester line to Blackbrook it was 30 miles an hour, so that they needed an additional sign at that point where it would turn from 30, heading south, where it would turn from 35 back to 30. So I think that the total number of signs being requested is 5 and not 4. Makes sense. I think there was 1 sign that was not.
But that's not consistent with the recommendation.
We recommended the 4 signs. Correct.
I have a question.
So the 1 additional sign, I'm sorry, ma'am.
It's 1 at each end, 35 mile an hour, and then midpoint, 1 facing northbound and 1 facing southbound.
Okay.
So 4 35 mile an hour signs. And then it was said there was need for an additional, there's a 30 mile an hour sign right
East
right
Dunbarton
past
between
of-
Blackbrook and the Manchester line.
Right heading north, just past the Manchester line, heading north, but there is not one when you're heading south indicating that it's changed from 35 to 30.
Okay.
So there was one of the 35 midpoint was missed in the minutes, but it was discussed at the meeting.
Okay. Yes.
Chief, that section that's 30 miles an hour,
Yes.
that's been in front of highway safety in the past over the years.
Yes.
And my recollection is that we had approved some 30 mile an hour signs in the past. Are they missing?
Yes. They get run over, knocked down, stolen. Yes.
Okay. So technically, what we're not necessarily recommending new placements.
Correct.
Some
These
of
aren't
these-
new speed limit signs. These are, or new speed limits, they're new signs.
So the
The
replacement.
replacement signs.
Now, there's also the section between, I believe it's Montalona and Lindsay, that's going to be redone on East Dunbarton Road. Well, that's
It may very well be.
what's gone out to bid on East Dunbarton Road. But I guess I would just hate to put the signs up and have them be in the way depending on when the road is getting done. It's just a point of information.
So I guess I need some clarification. It says the committee voted 4-0 to recommend the placement of 4 speed limit signs. Should that say the replacement? Are we talking about replacing 4 signs that were
Yes.
originally there? So there are no new signs being placed there.
The signs that have always been on East Dunbarton Road are still there. Very few. Again, it's part of the state speed limit law.
Yeah.
We've relied from the same speed limit coming from Dunbarton into Goffstown and maintaining that. So we are adding signs for the 35 mile an hour area. The 30 zone itself is a replacement sign.
Okay.
And then there's also the additional blind driveway signs.
Nick, did you have a question?
No, that was my question.
So what's the process if a sign gets knocked down? People don't have to come back to highway safety, right? We can just replace that sign.
We can usually replace it. The problem with this one is it's, the last sign was posted at the intersection of East Dunbarton and Blackbrook, and I recall myself picking that sign up 3 different times. It's just one of those areas that it always got hit from one direction or another. So
Yes.
I just have a question. The 5 signs versus the 4. I don't recall the conversation. Was that just an omission in the minutes, or was that a?
I don't recall the conversation of the 5, and I apologize. I'm sorry, I'm disagreeing with you. But I recall the 3, one at the midpoint, and from my view, it's a commuter road. People go up and down that road all day long, and it's the same people over and over again. They're going to see it at one end, they're going to see it at the other, and either coming home or going to work, they're going to see that third sign. So it's a reminder in between, and the fourth sign just seems to be a replication. So that's my standpoint.
So I'm clear, so we're talking about two signs in the same location, one facing each way.
That's what
That
I
would be-
believe
Or
it is.
at some point in between
Close.
Grady Hill Road and Black, or in Montalona, I think there should be one. I walk my dog there. If someone comes in off of Montalona or off of Lindsay Way or off of one of those streets and doesn't catch the one coming in from Manchester, they're not reminded. And, I think having a reminder, it's dangerous. No sidewalks, no streetlights. And even during the day, it's people speed along there. And I think they have people are more likely to do what you want them to do if you at least ask them to. If they have no idea what the expectation is, they can't try and meet it. I think to have it just going one direction, how do you decide whether it's going to be the northbound or the southbound? Flip a coin? I think it needs to be both sides. And in my recollection, I think that was discussed at the meeting.
I
Yes.
was going to ask, Chief, could you just go over again where these three signs will be?
One would be at the Dunbarton line.
Coming in,
One would be at the Blackbrook East Dunbarton Road intersection,
going up.
and then one somewhere in the midpoint.
For which direction of travel?
Either, we'll pick one. Again, it's a commuter road, so they're going to see it either on their way to work or on their way home. So it's a reminder, but again, it's not part of the whole overwhelming sign pollution that we can see. So that it's there, but it's not,
Follow-up to that, though, but from Blackbrook to Manchester, it's 30, isn't it?
Yes.
So we have three signs going basically north of that.
Mm-hmm.
One coming in when you come in from Dunbarton, one to be there. Then you're going to have one where it goes from 30 to 35.
Correct.
And then where would the third one be?
Somewhere
Yeah.
midpoint, like
Midpoint.
between Montalona and Grady Hill.
Well, I guess the only concern that I have, if it's going to be 30 miles an hour at Blackbrook, there's not that much distance between.
Right.
My issue was you have a lot of people who don't enter onto East Dunbarton Road at the Dunbarton line or at the Manchester line, so they would not be have the privilege of seeing that the speed limit is 35 on that road. There's a lot of people that come in from Hooksett Road, from Grady Hill Road, from Montalona, from, the Lindsay Road names. There's a lot of other roads that access East Dunbarton Road and travel that area. So if there's not a sign somewhere else there, they're not given the opportunity to see what the expected speed limit is.
I understand what you're saying. The only concern I have is once you get to Blackbrook, it's got to be a sign that says 30.
Right, that's in the proposal.
Right,
Going
but the
southbound.
distance, if you're on Grady Hill, if you're on Montalona Road, any other part of Montalona Road, if you're coming up Terrell Hill Road, they're all 35 miles an hour. All the roads are 35. The only difference is when you get to Blackbrook, it becomes 30.
People don't know it's 35 because there's nothing posted from the Dunbarton line all the way to Manchester along. There's nothing posted from 2 miles up Dunbarton Road into Dunbarton until you get the Manchester line.
I kind of understand what you're saying, because we're going to have one at the Dunbarton line for people coming into Goffstown, one at Blackbrook for people going the other way, and then there'll be a third midway. So you're really choosing, I understand it's a reminder, but you're choosing who are you reminding, the people coming in, the people going out. So if you're putting one midway, why wouldn't you put
One each direction,
each direction?
which is your prerogative. Yeah.
Right. So probably across from each other going in opposite
Or
directions.
staggered, doesn't really matter.
Or nothing midway, but to just pick one, I don't know if that...
And the only argument, the counter-argument to that is, if they're entering onto East Dunbarton Road from all these other roads,
They're commuters.
we should be posting them on each
Yeah,
intersection.
they're commuters, they know they're going to be there.
We should post it on, if we're going to go with, they can enter from any road off of East Dunbarton, you should actually be posting them on each and every intersection,
It's always an-
both directions.
It's always an issue we struggle with.
Correct.
Just
And
to try and
that's,
balance that with the sign pollution, if you will, plus the cost of maintaining and replacing all these signs, over time, which is something certainly not to
Plus
consider.
citizen safety.
Understood?
Isn't
My
state
concern.
statute 35 miles an hour?
correct.
If otherwise, if not
And
posted.
when you go to get your license, one of the written questions on the test is,
How long ago did I get my driver's license?
Oh.
How likely am I to remember that? I'm not confronted by it every day.
I
Well, I think we've heard both sides of the
And
argument.
if I might, I think the chief has got the right idea. I mean, these people that are coming on these roads, they're all commuter people. They know, they live the area, they work in the areas or whatever. You might get a stray now and then, but you're right, the state can't mandate 35 miles an hour, and if we've got just a reminder here and there, I think that's probably enough. These people are coming here every day, they're not just showing up as out of the blue.
It's people coming every day who know there's nothing posted, know there's no cops that are going 50 miles an hour down.
Let's not get into confrontational and one-on-one discussion.
I'm just trying to explain why
I
I'm so
understand.
passionate
I understand.
about it.
I understand. Oh, I think we recognize it. We appreciate it. Yes, Nick.
I was going to suggest that we go with the recommendations, because we've got the 2 blind driveway signs and we've got the 4 other signs. I don't know which direction you're going to put that midway one, but if it doesn't, we can take some time to see how that works, and if there is a problem in the opposite direction, I guess you could come back to the highway traffic safety and request that additional sign.
Okay,
It's a big step in the right direction, I think.
big step in the right direction.
So I'd make a motion to accept the recommendations for both the speed limit signs, the 4 speed limit signs, as well as the blind driveway signs.
Motion and a second. Any discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the final request before the committee was a request for a no dog fouling sign made by Mr. Paradise, I believe it was in Moose Club Park. Committee voted not to recommend the sign because they felt this was an enforcement issue. The police department will be paying close attention over the winter with strong enforcement during the spring and summer months concerning this.
I think it's pretty straightforward, in my opinion.
And also not a highway safety.
I make a motion to accept the recommendation.
I'll second that one.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Nick is right, it's not a regulatory sign.
Do we have
Thank you, Chief.
an ordinance? Is there a town ordinance for dog fouling?
State law.
State
State
law.
law.
There are town ordinances at the parks,
Thank you, Chief.
no dog and pick up after your dog.
Such as over on the back road, by the ramp, by the,
From Lake ordinance?
Yeah, Glen Lake ordinance.
Yep, Barnard, Roy.
Right.
Yep.
Right, the parks.
Is there any old and new business to come before the board?
I have one
Discussion
old.
tonight? Yes, Nick.
Several weeks ago, we had a public comment from a resident in Pinardville, Mrs. Benner, regarding message board signs, and I volunteered to work with that group. We looked at the Pinardville area and tried to identify parcels, town-owned parcels, where a sign could appropriately be placed. And I kind of paid attention or had an eye towards places, land that had a public building nearby, access to electricity, network capability, so an electronic message board could be changed. And one location that we identified that was really the best location was Bartlett School. They have an existing manually changed sign. And the thought was potentially working with the school department to put in an electronic message board. I spoke with Diane McCarthy and asked her if she would bring that subject up to the school board, which she did. It had never been on their radar, so she couldn't really give me a feel. But she did speak to the school board and said that they would be interested in exploring a joint venture with the town to replace that manual signboard with an electronic message board. Obviously, everything depends on cost, so that's the next step. We'll be trying to get some estimates of what it would cost to replace. The ideal thing is there's power to that sign already. The sign structure already exists. There's networking capability with the school, so it would be just a matter of replacing the manual sign with an electronic sign. Obviously, there'd be a memorandum of understanding that would have to be negotiated between the school district and the town as to what messages would be placed, what time limits on each. But I think it's a win-win. When you're utilizing an electronic message board, you really have kind of an unlimited amount of messages you can put up depending on the length of time you want each message to stay up there. You could have half of the time frame school messages, half of the time frame town messages. It could be changed electronically, so no one has to go outside and actually change the board.
Does the police department have the same sign, Chief? Is that the same style on there? Or
They
not?
have a similar, they have an electronic.
Yeah. I just wondered if that might be a second alternative, because, Pernadville's fine, but a lot of people get the 114 and gone,
Yeah.
Second spot just to catch more traffic.
And I think that was, at least the way I looked at it, is we start at one location, see if we can get something done, and then from there move on to another location in town until we've gotten all the areas in town covered. So I just wanted to update the board on where that was going.
Okay. Thank you. I did have an old business. We've talked about concerns that we've received relative to the timeliness of inspections for code enforcement. Familiar with what we talked about, perhaps developing a policy to make sure that when inspections were called for, they'd be responded to in a timely manner. Have we done anything?
Which code enforcement? Are we talking zoning, building, or fire?
Building. Well, any call for an inspection, calls for inspection.
It involves different departments and offices, so
Right,
I didn't
right.
know what the...
Well, we talked about how I had received several concerns relative to people calling in for inspections on new construction, in this case, and that it took too long to have the construction and the inspection performed. Downtime costs money, delays projects, and for that. We were going to talk about developing a policy on when we would respond, who would respond to it, would there be backup personnel in the event that the person who is responsible for providing those inspection services isn't available for whatever reason, and those sorts of things. So I don't want to let that fall off the radar because, again, I've been approached by at least 3 individuals.
Okay, since it involves another department, I would have to talk to that department
That's
head
fine.
regarding the
That's-
policy he has established. I didn't think there was an issue with building. Mark's responds pretty quickly.
No, I didn't want to let it fall off the radar. I wanted to make sure that we continue to address that issue. Any other older new business? Any board members? Okay, we do have a non-public session. And since we have completed our public portion of the meeting, we'll be signing off on GTV, going into non-public. So wish a good evening to those folks who are viewing on GTV.
Do you want to make a motion for it?
Excuse me?
Do you want us to make the motion?
Yes. Yeah, we do need a motion to go into non-public.
Okay.
Can we do the discipline one first?
Sure. Yes?
Yes.
I'm saying yes, please.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91A 3(2), paragraph A, discipline.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Yes. 5-0. Okay, we need another motion to go in for hiring?
We'll do that after when we come out.
When we come out?
When we go back in. Yeah.
Okay. All righty.